Hello, meine Damen und Herren. If you're German, you get that joke. So I am just leaving, I'm just leaving MGH. I feel like I should have a punch card for all the MGHs that I go to. You know, like those little coin books you have there, or national park things. Like, this is the one I went to. Not my usual MGH, but the one where my plastic surgeon is. And I have a card, and it says that I don't know if that's backwards, that I am having my tattooing done on February 19th at 1 p.m. It's only an hour and a half of an appointment. So yeah, I went to plastics today for a follow-up. I thought I was going in, that's my chair. I thought I was going in to plan my third and last reconstruction revision, but my plastic surgeon had other plans. Yeah, usually, I don't know, not usually, like I have this done like every whatever. The other times that I've gone to see him, he's like, oh, we could do this and we can do this, blah, blah, blah. What was still left over that I wanted to have done was on my right breast. I just started having similar nerve pain like I was having on the left side. And so this is all about plastic surgery and reconstruction revisions and lipo and all that kind of stuff, because I learned things today, so I wanted to share them with you all. So I thought that he would just, just to rewind, I had a double mastectomy 3.5 years ago, with with reconstruction, immediately to implants. I never had expanders. He's that good. No, I don't know why. Maybe just because I had enough skin. I don't know. I didn't need expanders. He went right to implants. The implants that he put in were pretty much the same amount of cc's than what they took out. But they don't give you an instruction manual to understand how implants work, how they are similar and different from actual boobs, mostly different, and like what to expect and not to expect. What he told me today was that in plastic surgery, the opposite of good is perfect, or that sounds backwards. You can't strive for perfection with this whole reconstruction thing. It's just like any human. There's no human that is perfect, although some people might think that they are. There's no human that's perfect. There are no actual boobs that are perfect. There are no fake boobs that are perfect. The goal, he always said to me, was that you want your boobs to look, I'm paraphrasing, you want your boobs to look good in, like with clothes on. Not that they wouldn't look good without clothes on. It's just like, you know, he goes for the goal of when you're walking around, anyone looking at you would just have no idea that you had reconstruction, or, you know, a mastectomy with reconstruction. That's his goal. And every plastic surgeon is different. You can rewind to a way earlier vlog, because I did see another plastic surgeon before him was not happy with her. Oh my gosh, she made me feel like such a fucking freak. I felt very like warm and taken care of with the doctor that I have. Even today, when I went in, I mean, he was hearing what I was saying, and briefly, he's a man of few words, briefly explaining, you know, like what in my head I could have done and what actually is like the case of what would end up happening. So anyway, so the original surgery was 3.5 years ago, and then 2 years ago, almost to the day actually, 2 years ago, I had a reconstruction revision because my left side, I was having some pain. It seemed like in the middle, like when I laid down, there was like a divot before the implant started that just was happening over time as everything was healing. But like it hurt, like it was uncomfortable and it hurt. And my boobs began to be uneven, like uncomfortably uneven. And it turned out that something was going on with the alloderm So he basically, like, he went back in, did a revision. It was like an hour surgery. My double mastectomy was a 6.5 hour surgery. Well, with the reconstruction was a 6.5 hour surgery. So he basically took my left boob and, like, cut the allergerm or cut the sling or however it works. He, like, basically cut out a couple of centimeters this way and a couple of centimeters up and, like, sewed everything back together again. And then it was my left boob. The problem that happened at that point was that my apartment flooded a week after my surgery. I went for my follow-up the following week, and it was the next day that my apartment flooded. And weirdly, it's like bitterly cold. It's bitterly cold now in New England, too. But I live in a much better apartment than I used to. Not the way that I wanted to get there. Anyhow, so it should have just been like a week of recovery, and it ended up being longer. And then I was getting, which I just saw the marks today, because I haven't noticed them in like forever, but because I was going into plastics today, I'm like looking really close at my foobs to see what's going on. And I had two, what are they called, like blood blisters or something after my revision surgery, from the Tegaderm, from the tape that they put on like afterwards to keep everything in place. But I think that was just from all the moving around and stuff from having to move a week after I had this surgery. I can laugh now. It was like not funny. I mean, it's not funny now, but it certainly wasn't funny at the time. And when I had that second reconstruction, or when I had the reconstruction revision 2 years ago, he also did lipo on the sides too, which I thought was like, oh, lipo, the rich and famous, have lipo. The lipo was like, whew, it was painful. Like not during it, you're out when they're doing the actual, procedures. But the lipo, my skin turned like black, and it was like hard on the sides. Like it was hard. And again, it could just be because of all the hubbub of having to move and stuff. But like I freaked out when it started turning blue. It wasn't even like black and blue. It was like legit black. And I, called him and I'm like, what the fuck? And apparently like that's typical as to what happens. It's totally back to normal color skin now, but I guess that happens with lipo. But then like, I'm 53, you get older, stuff starts to sag. I mean, my boobs are nowhere near as saggy as my foobs are nowhere near as saggy as my actual boobs were. Anyhow, so it's been 2 years. I wanted to go through the year of 2024 with no surgeries, because I'm like, just give my body a break. And so now we're in 2025. So I'm like, all right, let's do this last surgery, fix my right side. My concerns again were the right side. I'm having like the dog ears from where they sew things up at the end. I feel like they're rubbing up against like a nerve every once in a while. So I get like, it's just an uncomfortable pain. It doesn't last long. It's like just as it rubs up, it hurts, and then that's it. And then I had talked to his nurse like 6 months ago or so, and just to express, where my head was at with everything. And I was going through very large whoop, my hair's caught my earring. A very large, oh my gosh, I can't even fix that now. I'll fix it later. A very large body shaming period, which I'm not as much at all now. It's a process. This whole thing is a friggin' process. It is a marathon, not a sprint. So she was saying that, I mentioned about that pain, and then I said, when I look down, like when you look at me, my boobs look great, except they have scars on them, but they look great. And my scars have gotten a lot lighter. And they told me that when you have the tattooing done and there's a nipple there, your eye goes to the nipple, you don't notice the scarring as much. The other thing was when I look down, my boobs look kind of square. When you look at me, they're shaped like wonderfully. But when I look down, they look square. Like the front looks flat, it doesn't protrude. So for a brief while, I thought, well, what if I switch out my implants and go for either a larger implant? Keep in mind that my current implants are 560 cc's. They're pretty big. I mean, not big. They're similar in size of what I was before. I'm not like a petite person. They're proportional to like what I had taken out. Or I was thinking, like, should I go to a higher profile of a boob so it, like, just looks higher and more perky? Or, like, is that just going to look weird because that's not what my boobs looked like before, and then I'll really look different. And then, like, fixing up the sides a little bit because, like, I don't know what he would have done. Like, today he said he could do lipo again, but he's like, it's not that there's so much fat there. If he goes back in again, he said the scars would be longer, like further back. And like, why do you want to have longer scars? You know, he's like, and the nurse told me that too, that going back in to take care of the little, like, not bubble, but like whatever you have. If you're a woman, you get it. It's that little, like, bump thing, you know? I mean, you think, like, oh, I want to look like a Barbie doll where it's hard plastic, like, straight up and down on the sides. And that's just not reality. So I brought all these things up to him today, and I thought that we're just going to, he'd be like, all right, let's do A, B, and C. Let's schedule the surgery. Let's get you in and take that taken care of. Your scars will heal. You'll do the tattooing, and then, like, on your way, you know? Close that chapter for good. But he was feeling around my right side, trying to feel what I was, like, physically feel what I feel when I had that rubbing up against stuff. And one thing I will say to everyone too, like, these plastic surgeons, like, you know, they kind of want you in and out. Like, make a plan or get out. Not in a mean way. It's just, I don't know. But, like, I want to be heard, and, like, I don't want to have to go to plastics all the time. Like, I want to make my appointments, you know, chock full of the questions that I have, so that I don't have to keep going. I mean, I have to go back for check-ins, but, you know, so I don't have to keep going back or sending messages or whatever. Like, get all my questions answered. So, like, if I'm sitting up straight looking at him, like, yeah, I'm sure they look perfect. But he asked me to, like, lean, or if I could lean back. So, like, he reclined my little seat thing a little bit, maybe not even a 45-degree angle, just to see, like, how it would feel differently. And there were a couple of times where what he was touching, like, hurt. Not hurt a lot, but, like, uncomfortably, like a zing kind of hurt. Or not even like a zing. It was like a dull, nervy kind of hurt. And I said, like, stop. I'm like, that's where I feel it. And he's like, it's the edge of the implant. And then he was saying that, like, you know, surgery isn't to be taken lightly. You know, could he go in? Yes, but he's like, with his ethics and morals, he just doesn't feel right putting me under for surgery to potentially fix that, when in reality he could fix what he can fix, and then I could have the same pain because something else shifts, like, you know, however many months later. And how many times am I going to go in for surgery? So I actually felt a little disappointed that, like, he wasn't like, yeah, let's go in and get this shit taken care of. So I asked him if I could, like, lay down further, like if I'm laying down for bed, you know, I'm like, can you recline me more like I'm laying down for bed so I can try to explain to you what I'm feeling. So I did, and I don't know why I'm starting to get upset. I'm not like sad upset. I'm surprised that I'm tearing up right now. It's weird. I haven't cried in a while. So, you know, having a good hair day, good makeup day, and here come the waterworks. I wasn't sad because of, you know, determining that I'm not going to have another, not now, or maybe ever, have another revision. It's not a matter of like, oh, well, he said no, but I wanted yes. That's not what it was about. Like, what do I know about plastic surgery? You know, do I trust his opinion? Absolutely. Could I go to other people? Sure. But I also know that, like, you can't strive for perfection when you're talking about surgery. Not just because he said so. Like, I get it. You know, your body's going to do what your body's going to do. Things are going to shift. How many times do you want to put your body through the trauma of going through surgery and the healing and all of that? And I guess me and my black and white thinking is like, well, if you do the surgery, then all the bads will go away and everything will be perfect when the surgery is done. But deep down, I know that that's just not true. So I laid back and I felt around, and he felt around too. And he's like, he can hear what I'm saying, and he could feel the little things that I'm mentioning. But he's like, it's just not enough to go into surgery for. Because he can't that was the main thing. He can't guarantee the outcome that I think I'm going to be having from doing a revision. So there's a point where I just, like, for me, where I'm like, he knows what he's talking about. How much do I want to put my body through more trauma? My body's not perfect. It wasn't before, and it's not, no one's body's ever going to be perfect. There's no perfect. And then when I talked about the sides, and he said, because when I talked to the nurse, she said, he could surgically go in and remove some skin, but if you remove the skin, that's when you're creating a longer scar, and then the scar is going like across the sides. And scars are just not like, they're numb in the front, but like in general, scars can get itchy. Scars could, like, why do you want to have a longer line across your body? Do you want it to look? This is questions I'm asking, or these are questions I'm asking, like, myself out loud in my head. Do I want scars going like starting from here, going all the way back to, No, I just have to get that I'm a 53-year-old woman, and this is just what happens. Women that have no cancer at all have the same kind of thing on the sides that I am talking about. He said he could go in to do lipo if I wanted to. But again, he's like, it could just end up being like this again. And like, how many times do you want to go in to have lipo done? And lipo wasn't the like piece of cake that I thought it was going to be when I had it done. So I think he could sense my, my sadness and like the book of my cancer journey. I'm thinking, okay, have the other surgery, get the nipples tattooed, and then close the book. But like, now I'm not having the other surgery. So then he said, when I told him, like, when I got off this is emotion. I told him that when I got, because he asked how I was doing, blah, blah, blah. I said, when I got off the Lupron, I went through a lot of really dark days. And a lot of it was hormonal, which has been like rectified with meds. And then another part was just like, you're far enough out in this cancer journey that you have time to think now that, like, treatment is done and all these things are done. And now you're like, wait a minute, what the fuck just happened the past 3 years? And like, you're supposed to be going back to life. And it's like, what does that life look like? And I've had many vlogs about that, so I'm not going to get too much into that. But by not having the surgery is another chapter towards the end of my cancer book. What is the last chapter then? The last chapter is the tattooing. So he looked at me, and his voice is so warm and comforting. I'm just blessed that he's my plastic surgeon. I truly am. He said, when I told him about the body shaming, and I said, it's nothing obviously personal against you. It's just, my body is not the same after cancer, and it sucks. It sucks that I had to go through all this stuff. And he's like, I don't know if you phrase it that way, but basically, like, I think you should get the tattooing done, because he said, I think when you look at your, he didn't call them breasts, whatever he said, when you look at your breasts with nipples on, you're going to see your whole body in a different way, totally, than how you see it now. The tattooing is my last chapter with all of this. And as bizarre as it sounds, with it being the last chapter of like, treatment's done, now surgery's done, the nipples are done, go out in the world, Jen. the cancer book is closed and you're going back out in the world as a cancer survivor with this new body. And honestly, it's a little scary. Because you're not the same person that you used to be at all after this journey. And I almost say that with like pride, because I love myself so much more now. I'm so much more nurturing with myself now than I've ever been. And it sucks that it had to take this kind of thing to show that to me. I mean, I would have liked to learn that in an easier lesson, but whatever. Like even today when I was working, somebody was just being really nasty to me, and I'm like, you know what? I don't have the energy for this garbage. I got up and I left. But then I went around the corner and I just like checked in. It was when I was tutoring. It wasn't like my job. I'm like, it is a blessing to be with me as a tutor because I'm damn good at it. I'm like, don't waste my time. Oh my gosh. I just have a lot of pride in like how far I've come with all this shit, and you know, doing it as like a single person and, you know, a single mom. And I mean, my kids are, well, when the whole thing started, my son was in high school, but like, you know, it's a lot. And I'm blessed to have the friends that I do that have helped me with this journey. It's just crazy that like I go check out, and I never even scheduled a follow-up with plastics. I don't even know if I'm supposed to have one. There's no book. There needs to be a fucking manual. Maybe this is the fucking manual. Take all my vlogs, make them into like, you know, get them into Word form, transcript them, put them into a book, and like, boom, there's my manual. But now I have this thing that I have an appointment, and it says tattoo on Wednesday, February 19th. I know by the time I upload this, like, it'll be way past February 19th. I do recall the nurse, because I know you can go multiple places to have the tattooing done. The nurse at his office does it. They said she does it every day. And I joked, or half jokingly asked her when we started talking about the nipple tattooing, I said, do you have like a lookbook so I can see your work? Because like even when I had this tattoo done, I'm like, I'm not going to have a tattoo done unless I know like what their stuff looks like. But today he said, do you want to see some pictures of her work? And I'm like, yes. So he showed me this picture of this woman who was kind of overweight, but similar scars to me. I think that was his point. I guess similar scars and similar sized boobs, although hers looked much bigger than mine. As I say that, I didn't really focus so much on the boobs. I was looking at the nipples. That's the whole point. So he showed me some pictures of the tattooing, and it looks extremely lifelike. It's like this 3D textured thing. And one thing when I saw the nurse last time and we were talking about the tattooing, she asked me if I had any pictures of my nipples before, my surgery, which I did, because as soon as I was diagnosed, I started taking pictures. I mean, my boobs were kind of like I had biopsies and stuff, so like they were bruised and they had like stuff on. They weren't pretty looking, but the point is to see like what's your original like skin color, which my skin is the same color here now. Like I don't really have, I have the redness of the scarring, but that's it. But you can see like the pigment of my old nipples and areolas. And she told me that like they sell stuff on like Amazon that you can buy like stickers, or maybe they're temporary tattoos to put on, just so that you can see like what it would look like and feel better. But I never ordered. I looked at them on Amazon. I never ordered them. I feel like I didn't want to put them on my scars because I didn't want to screw up my scars. I don't know. Oh, but one thing I do want to mention, when I saw the nurse, she told me that, like, yes, the nipples is the last step. And as I'm putting like a little addendum at the back of my little cancer journey book, she said that, like, you want to make sure that you don't need any more surgeries before you have the tattooing done. Because then, like, obviously they would be unbalanced and blah, blah, blah. So I said that to the doctor today. I said, you know, once I had the tattooing done, like, that's that, you know. Because he kept saying, like, you know, it's too soon. He's like, let's wait another year. Or he didn't say a year, but he said, let's wait a while to see if the pain doesn't go away. Because we could always go back in. And I'm like, well, I can't go back in once the tattooing is done. And he's like, why not? Like, I thought that you couldn't go back in because it'll mess up the tattooing. He's like, well, then you just get the tattooing adjusted. I don't know. How do I know about this shit? And the nurse that was with him, a different nurse, said the same thing. Like, just because you have the tattooing doesn't mean that you can't go back in. He's like, I would just, you know, cut where the tattoo is and just, like, sew you back up again. And if you need some tweaks with the tattoo, they would do that. But it'd just be like if you were cutting into an actual boob, you know, if you didn't have to get rid of the nipple, like, you would still have the nipple there. You would just work around it. So knowing that, like, you know, if I do have pain, because it's not, part of it is aesthetics and part of it is the pain. But knowing that if I do have pain down the road, that it's not like a done deal, that he can go in to do something if need be. So, yeah, so that's where I am. Sorry, I just burped. So February 19th, which, what's today? I don't even know what date today is. It's right after Trump was inaugurated. I am not a Trump fan, just saying. That was the 20th, so 3 weeks. Just about 3 weeks until I have the tattooing done. Yeah, I'm not putting those up on a vlog. Sorry, not sorry. There are plenty of places you can look online, but I have to forewarn you that most of the places online that show their tattoos and stuff, they're like these horror stories, so you can't go by that. There's plenty of people that didn't have horror stories. There's plenty of support groups where you'll find someone who will show a picture of their tattooing and send it to you. Yeah, so that's where I am. All right, I'm going to shut off right now because I'm getting a phone call. That's going to mess up my video, but I will check in soon. Bye.